And I'll just do the interview on the thing, on the Zoom, but I won't be able to see like questions and stuff. Oh, I guess I could. I can go back and forth.
Yeah, so if you open the group in the background, then you'll be able to see the questions.
Oh,
Or worst case scenario, I mean, I'm in the group, so I can always check back in on questions if anybody has any questions that don't come up.
okay. So it says it's live on Facebook, but there's a little button where I need to push play or something. Does that make sense? Or is it?
Uh, I will probably play in the sense of you would be watching the live because I'm seeing
Oh,
that
I
we
don't
are
want to watch
live.
the
We're
live.
we're live somewhere.
Okay, all right, we're here. All right, thank you so much, Amanda. You've been so amazing. You're not just a teen expert, you're a tech expert.
I never thought that I had that title, but it seems that I keep often falling into that role of like tech support.
Yeah,
So here we are.
all right, I appreciate it. All right, so hi everyone. This is Rita Desnoyers-Garcia of Calm Mom Alliance and Becoming Awake. And today I'm with my good friend and colleague, Amanda, who is a teen expert. I just keep calling her a teen expert. I guess is that a good title for you? Teen expert? All right.
I'll take
I'm
it.
going to I'm going to read her intro real quick. So you know a little bit about her. We're going to dive into how she got into this, and then we're going to get to the meat, which is how to really connect with your teen during the holidays. Because I know this is there's so many stresses going on. This is one of them. And if you could take this off your list, it would be amazing. Okay, so Amanda is an award-winning national board certified health and wellness coach. Woo! NBC, HWC, that's a lot of letters. And she specializes in coaching teens and young adults who are struggling with life challenges and through the stresses of transitioning to adulthood. All right, I have three teens, I have young adults, three teens, and I've witnessed that. And it's bumpy. Sometimes it's really bumpy. So thank you for your service. She has an undeniably passion to empower every young person to understand the power of the mind. Yep, their innate wisdom and how to build a thriving future. And I think this is what adults need to learn. So the people that I will have in the future are going to be thanking you that you were able to help them.
Yes.
And it says here, combining her passion and proven results-based programs, we love that. She equips her clients with essential life skills, yep, effective goal-setting tools, and stress management strategies to become confident, self-motivated, independent, and resilient adults. We need that in this world. And she continues to commit herself to making it her life mission for every young person to have a coach. Amen. Amen. You're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, and this is exactly part of the reason why I do what I do, right? Is because I've yet to meet an adult who doesn't hear what I do and say something along the lines of, "Where were you when I was a teenager?" Right? And I'm also that person too. Like, I wish I had someone like me as a teen because it would have changed so many things. Though I'm all for, everything happens for a reason, and I do believe in that. But there's some truth, there's facts in knowing that if I had, a coach, definitely still would have landed where I am today, but maybe I would have got there a little faster.
Yes. Yeah, but you know what? Maybe because you didn't have that, it like you said, it now it's inspiring you and motivating you and making you really passionate about helping young people to have that support and
Mhm.
information, frankly. And I think in today's world, especially where there's a lot of information available all the time, that it can be confusing. I know it's confusing to me. I never know what I'm hearing about. Is it true? Is it not true? And I have, 50 plus years of experience to kind of have a little more skeptical view of the world in general. I can't imagine what it's like to be a teenager who doesn't have those years to be soaking in all this stuff and then going, well, I guess this is life. I guess this is the way it is. I guess this is the right way. And a lot of times it's
Right,
not
exactly.
the best way for them. So before we dive into that, I just want to, can you tell me a little bit about what drove you to do this? Is it because you didn't have a coach and you got yourself into a place, or what happened that you decided this is what I want to do?
So definitely a big part of my own journey led me here. I really struggled as a teenager trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I knew there were certain things that I enjoyed doing, but I didn't really know how I was going to put that all together, make sense of it. And I really struggled with my mental health. And I just felt like I figured things out on my own, which I'm super grateful for. But again, if I had had someone that was guiding me, it would have been so much easier because, like you said, there is so much information out there now more than ever. And it was super confusing. So, definitely my own journey, and also seeing a lot of family members and friends that really struggled as well. And I believe that it doesn't have to be that way. And how we do that is we ask for help. And so, kind of, I'm the version of me that I needed as a teenager. And so, gifting that to other teens, I think, is truly a gift.
Yeah. Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Let me ask you this. What's the difference between what you do as a coach versus maybe someone like a therapist would do? Is there a big difference?
Great question. So, therapy and coaching are often sort of put in a similar bucket, oftentimes, right? And though I think there are similarities, I do think there are differences as well, because I have a lot of clients who actually have both.
Yep.
So so this can work. So it's a really great partnership, right? Because really in therapy, what we're looking more at is the past, right? We're diving into trauma and all those things. Whereas in coaching, we're focusing more on the future. So what I love about the partnership of therapy and coaching is that in therapy, again, we're kind of talking about the past, but oftentimes I find with a lot of my clients who are in therapy for a long time, or even have been introduced and they're like, oh, or therapy's not for me, it's often because they're feel like they're stuck in just peeling back the layers, which I think, I mean, not to knock therapy, I think therapy has its place and it's super valuable, but they're just looking for, okay, well, now I know where this trauma came from. What next? And that's where coaching comes in to say, okay, well, these are your goals, whether they have them or they need help to define them. And these are the steps that we can take to get you there. So it's more future focused, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Here and now, how can we go forward?
Right.
I
Exactly.
think also, I've had therapy and coaching for myself. And
Hmm.
I've noticed that there were things that my coach would say where I wait and I said, wait a second, I have been in therapy for X amount of years. I've never heard this before. I've never heard this before. Because it's kind of a different flavor, it's like
Hmm.
I don't know how to compare it to other things, but and also, a lot of stuff with teenage years I found is that they get overwhelmed with all the different steps that they don't know where to start. And then what I've seen is because they're overwhelmed, they put it off and they don't do it. And then all of a sudden at the last moment they're scrambling and running around with their hair on fire because they right? Because they put it I mean, I know a lot of adults that do that too, because that is a
Right.
strategy adults use. But man, if you could change that in teenage years, the amount of anxiety and strife and self-torture that you would spare yourself as an adult would be amazing. So, okay, so let's talk about the title of this interview, which is about how to connect with your teen during the holidays. So, tell us more about that. How do you do it? What's that about? Why is that important?
Hmm. So I think such a big part of why it's important really is often because this is a time where we're maybe stepping back from a little bit more of them being involved in school or activities, right? Like typically during the holidays, it's a little bit of a slower time. And it gives great opportunity to make connection. And when we can build that like foundation of connection, build that bond, really, what I've seen with parents and their teenagers, it makes it a much smoother process for everyone. Not only is it great, to have a coach as a support to the teens, but parents are there all the time, right? And so really creating and fostering that strong relationship is something that I really strongly believe in, and I think is so powerful in helping teens to really feel loved and safe, and knowing that they have a net to fall into, right? And though, yes, there's other support systems, as we talked about already, the therapy and the coaching, but parents are such a big part of that for teens, even though they give a little mixed messages often as teenagers. They're like, Mom, I don't need you, I'm good. Like, but they really do. They want their parents. So that's, I would say, because they may not be saying that, right? But it is, they do that, and it is really important. And I think in order to do that really is creating those opportunities to connect. So maybe, it's really intentionally saying that I really want to do something together, or you find something, a hobby or an event or something that you guys can do together to, and if you can involve the teen in making the decision on what that is, I would say bonus points there, because then you can find something that you're both enjoying, right? So yeah, those are my initial thoughts on, the importance and things maybe to be doing.
Awesome. I'm very encouraged by this because I'm hearing a lot of the things that I've implemented based on a lot of the master classes and workshops that I've attended that are yours. And one of the things what we decided to do several years ago was to have family night. Every once a week at least we have family night. And in the beginning it was a lot of eye rolling, there was a
Yeah.
lot of negotiation of what we were going to do. For a while it was sort of a rotation of every one person got to pick each time. And then now that we only have one, the other two are at school. Our family nights are really what she wants to do. And what she wants to do is sit on the couch with her playlist, and she tells us about her playlist. So we learn a lot about hip hop. There's a lot of hip hop talk. I know a lot more than I did before. And I said the only caveat to that is every once in a while I get to say, hey, try this, check this one out. And we listen to it.
Mhm.
And I would say 2 out of 5 times she likes it and adds it to her playlist. And then I'm like, okay, I've done, my thing. And we spend a good hour just sitting there talking. She can talk about her favorite artists and what their music's about and what the era was. So she gets to be kind of like the teacher,
Yes.
which is a role she loves to play. And I really feel like, and my husband's there too. We're all there. We're kind of like on each side of her while she does that. And it's really great. It's just like, she's still very tied to her devices, but she's talking and
Mhm.
she's with us, and she actually looks forward to it now, which is a huge shift. And it also gets us to not talk about things that I feel like there's so much administrative things that we talk about.
Yep. Yep.
School and how's this and did you put the garbage out and all those things. So it's just pure her interests and we get to listen to her. So
And I love that you found something too where she's able to teach you something. Are you hearing that?
yeah, I just heard it was a little in and out, but I hear you now.
Yeah, I'm hearing some weird background.
Oh, okay.
Well, hopefully everybody can hear us. But yeah, so I love that you found something where she could teach you something, because I think that can be really powerful too, right? When we kind of, as parents, we're often in this like teacher role, right? Which is super powerful, and we want to impart all of the wisdom and the amazing lessons and all these things. But sometimes taking a step back from that, because oftentimes teens really just want to be listened to, they just want to be heard. And this can also be tied into if they're having they're struggling with something. And so when we're able to build that baseline of communication, then when they are struggling with something, they're more likely to come to their parents because they know it's a safe space, and they'll often be more open And I think though sometimes, there's some things parents are like, well, I don't know if I want to know. Right. But it's good to know, so that just like you're saying, where you're understanding, okay, well, what are your interests beyond, these administrative type things? Like, what kind of music do you like to listen to, and learning what they are enjoying beyond, school. And though those things are valuable, yes, but when we can ask them questions about things beyond those things, and when they come to you with a problem, it's okay, well, I'm going to listen first. And I always say to ask if do they want you just to listen, or do they want your advice? Because in so many even of my coaching sessions with teens, it's amazing how if I'm just sitting there listening, and then they're coming up with a solution, and sometimes they need a little bit of help to brainstorm, but often they come up with a solution that's maybe even better than something that I would have suggested, right? Because they're going through the issue. And how empowering is that for them to know, oh, I can figure this out. I got this, right? So yeah, I love this, getting into conversation of what are their interests, what are things that they like to do, because we do often get caught in these administrative things, as you call them, and lose track of everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the administrative stuff that my teen and I were caught up in was all college stuff. It was high school grades, college applications, all that stuff. And I think I've told you this before, but I think it bears repeating. And I'm proud. It's pretty much, I think, something you've probably told me was, um, I need to have a conversation with her about what's her responsibility and what's my responsibility, because I was taking too much responsibility. And I realized I was much more invested in her hitting these deadlines than she was. And in some sense, it was scary to let go of that. But I thought, what's really scaring me is that she's going to turn around and go, why didn't you help me? Why didn't you tell me it's your fault that I'm not blah, 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 right?
Uh-huh.
And so I sat down with her and I said, look, I feel like nagging you is not working. And she's like, nope. And so I said, okay, so let's do this. What do you think of this? I will not nag you at all about any of this stuff, but it's totally on you. If you miss a deadline, that's on you. You can't blame me. If you forget something, if you fail, if you have to repeat a grade or whatever it is on you. And can we make a deal? Can we make a deal? And she said, absolutely. And we shook hands and we made a deal. And in the beginning, it was like I had to like put tape over my mouth, I had to like go and scream into a pillow because the impulse was to say something. And over time it got better. But this is what happened, exactly what we were talking about. She started to come to me when she had a question. In fact, she said, hey, can you just sit with me while I do this part of the application? Because it's really hard and I just need you here to get through it. And I was like, all right. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you for real? You want me around while you're doing this? You have questions for me? You want my advice? Because I
Mhm.
wasn't doing it anymore. Then it became something she was invested in, and she's like, uh-oh, maybe I need some help with this. And she's been hitting those deadlines.
Yeah, oh, you nailed it, because it is often this, as a mom myself, my son's a little younger, but still there, you want to help. You just want to help. And you feel like, well, if I step back, then are they going to be okay? And then we start making up all these, fears like, oh, they're going to fail. They're not going to make it to college. They're going to, ruin their whole life. And also too, we have our own stuff and our own baggage and things that we're working through. And so sometimes we're projecting that and not even realizing. And so when we actually take a step back, I know at first, similar to your experience, so many parents say this to me. They're like, what do you mean? And then they do it. And suddenly, exactly like what you said, maybe initially but it's mostly us as parents. We need to figure out, okay, well, do I need to scream in the pillow? Like, what are the things that I need to do to take care of myself so I can allow my child to actually make mistakes? And knowing that it's better for them to make the mistakes now, because the mistakes they make now are maybe a little bit easier to repair as opposed to in the future, right? And so they have more time for that. So if we can help them to learn how to make mistakes from now, that's a powerful life lesson. So yes, I know these things sometimes it's like easier said than done, or you may have heard them before and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds great, but like, how do I do it? And so just, I think, noticing the shift and noticing the change, and it may not happen tomorrow, but just like you shared, I hear this all the time for parents whenever I share, just take a step back and watch, because you're really empowering them, and they start to feel more confident in themselves, even knowing that, oh, my mom, my dad, like they believe in me. They think that I can do it. They know that I'm capable. And when I feel like I need help, I can ask them. And so I love this conversation that you had with her, and setting the expectation of, okay, and laying it out there on the table so that, you can both feel like this, okay, the communication, it's a two-way street. And they know that even if you do suddenly start taking a step back, it's not because you don't care, right? Because you've already told them, I do, and I'm here to support you. You just ask me when or what you need, and I'm there to support. Instead of, I think often as parents, we're like injecting ourselves everywhere. And it's like, well, I just want to fix, and make sure, we just want them to be happy. And I almost feel like that's one of the worst things that we can do. Not that we don't want our kids to be happy. Absolutely. We want them to be happy. But we also want them to be sad and hurt and to experience those things, so that this is life lessons for them in the future. Just as they make mistakes, they can find ways on, okay, well, I mean, it's inevitable, right? Like, it would be unrealistic to say, well, I'm just going to be happy my whole life. That's not how life works. And so when we can nurture that from a young age, then our teens become so much more resilient in the future.
Yeah, and capable. Like,
Yes.
I really, and for me, I had to really look at, well, what if she doesn't go to college? And then
Mhm.
that was worst case scenario. And I'm like,
Yes.
she'll figure it out. Whatever. Maybe she'll do something else. Maybe she doesn't need college. Maybe, or she won't go for a year and then decide I really want to do it. And then she'll hit those deadlines. Like, you know what I mean? So once I really let go of that, and sometimes it's like one finger at a time, you're like clinging and you're like, okay, all right. But I just was like, okay. And then I just noticed she was just like, all right, I really get serious about this. And
Well, if they feel like their parents are always there to hold everything, then they know, well, I don't need to take responsibility because someone else is doing it, right? And I don't need to be worried about it because my mom's going to remind me a million times, right?
yeah, and I know from my own experience as a young person, like it's like pumping your own gas. Like I live in New Jersey, where actually part of New Jersey, part of the luxury of being in New Jersey is that you don't have to pump your own gas. Like that's part of the state law. You don't pump your own gas. But then when I started driving in other states, I was like, uh-oh, I got to actually learn how to pump my own gas. And it kind of like made me nervous. And then I did it and I realized it's very doable. But I swear to God, I felt so empowered as a person when I was pumping my own gas. I was like, look at me, I pump my own gas. Did we take a pic? And it was before the day where you took a picture of everything you did. Like, was that a necessity? I was on my own and I had to figure out how to fill up the gas tank. And then I felt like, I felt so
Yes.
independent and grown up and all that stuff. So I think that's true for everybody.
And wouldn't we want to give our teens the opportunity to pump their own gas, right? And know that if they do need help, that as parents, we're there to offer support when they need it, but let them fumble a little bit, let them try and figure it out. And I know, like you said, maybe it's one finger at a time. Like sometimes it's hard to just fully let go, but
Yeah.
one step at a time. And truly, it can make such a difference. And I think we can all relate to this when we've, pumping the gas or whatever it is for you, but you can relate to this experience of figuring something out on your own. And it just feels so empowering. It truly does. And builds confidence, right? And isn't that what we want for teens. I know I want that for every teen. That's why I want every teen to have a coach. But I think that's really valuable life skills.
Yeah, you feel amazing about yourself. You feel like anything's possible when you figure it out. Or even if you have someone help you, but they're not your parents. They're a guidance counselor, for instance, or a friend, or another adult or something like that, but it's not your parents.
Well,
You
and
know,
oftentimes, yeah, well, because as teenagers, it's totally normal, right? Developmentally to sort of be taking a step away from parents and wanting to figure things out on their own. They're trying to find their independence. It's totally developmentally 100% on track. So it's a great thing, but it's hard, I think, sometimes for parents to really let go or allow them to, do these things. And so I think that a big part of that is knowing that they are going to be okay. It will be okay. And the more you see it being okay, I think as parents, it allows you to feel more comfortable with this idea, right?
yeah, no, and you know what, Amanda, I have to say, so I followed you for a long time and I'm always gleaning wisdom from you. And I was meeting a friend of mine and she said, "How you doing?" And I said, I got all welled up with tears. And I said, "My kids are so good right now. They're so great." And I was just like, and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And she's like, "Here, have some clean," she was like, everyone comes here and has a cry. But I was just like, man, if you knew what it feels like to say that, to be able to say it and feel it, like the kids are all right, they're doing great. It makes life so much easier in so many ways. So I say that because I think if they have a coach or a therapist or both, whatever they need to help them get there is so worth the investment. It's so worth talking to you. It's so worth working with you, going to your workshops, because I don't even know how to describe the result. Maybe you can describe it better, but for me, it was like sheer joy and relief.
Yeah, I think that's what the feedback that I get from a lot of parents. It's that peace of mind in knowing that your teen has that support and has that space, to a safe space, right? Because oftentimes they ask teens and they're, if they don't know what to do, or it's, well, I check Google or I ask a friend. And sometimes this is like, no, no, don't do that. And oftentimes what happens in the coaching process is a lot of the things even that I'm saying are often just validating what parents are already saying. So even though, they're finding that independence, I have check-ins with the parents throughout the coaching program, and so many of them are, I've been telling my son or daughter this for so long, and then suddenly you come along and say it, and it's like the greatest thing they've ever heard. And sometimes maybe it's just hearing it from someone else, or sometimes it's just maybe the wording that I choose is different. And so it lands for them, or maybe they just weren't ready to hear it yet, right? Or they just didn't want to hear it from their parents. And so there's so much beyond just the support in the coach with the teenager. It's also so powerful in how that actually also shifts the relationship with the teen and parent. I find that so incredibly powerful. It gets me so excited because I think, as I was saying in the beginning, one of the biggest parts of all this is creating that dynamic, creating that strong bond between teen and parent is something that I'm really passionate about, because I do think it's so important. It's one of the most important relationships that teens have is with their parents. And so when we can foster that, positive environment, that open communication, it's amazing what happens.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it feels so good. Um, so what can you give us a quick example of something that a client has experienced with you so people get like a real, I mean, I've talked about my stuff, right? But is there a client that you're like, "Oh, this is the perfect client to talk about as an example of what you do and what the results are?"
Oh my goodness. So I would probably say the teens that feel maybe a little bit lost, about, okay, what next steps do I need to take? Or a teen that maybe does have big goals and they're like, well, how am I going to figure this all out? So, like, the overachievers, those perfectionists, the kids that really want so much out of life, but they're kind of confused on how to make it happen for themselves. Maybe they're a little bit overwhelmed by it, anxious, um those kinds of things. Maybe they're lacking confidence. A lot of them oftentimes are sort of trying to figure things out but just feeling like they don't know what to do, and so having a little bit more guidance and support and accountability sometimes is something that can be really powerful for them, so that on the other side of it they have the confidence. They've created their, time management is really a big part of this, right? Like, how do I make, like, they're just figuring it all out. How do they manage their time? And so, these are things that I do. We're giving them mindfulness techniques, teaching them about emotional intelligence, all of those things that I think beyond the academics side of life, that these are the skills that really, if you can master these, and I say master very loosely because I think they're skills, they're tools, they're things that we're always working on and getting better at using. But if they can build a toolkit for themselves at a young age, that they can carry with them for the rest of their life. So, really nurturing those essential life skills. If, a teen is feeling like they just need a little bit more support in figuring life out so that they can be happy, they can be confident, they can be successful in today and their future.
Awesome. Awesome. So, all right, I have a couple more questions and then we'll close this out. But one of my questions is, so as you know, I work with moms.
Mhm.
Uh, what would be one piece of advice that moms can implement like today and pretty easily to create that connection that they want?
Oh, so many. Um, I would probably say, as I was like thinking, I'm like,
Sure.
trust the process. Really trusting, I think, is a big part, right? And I would probably say something that's really powerful is having that conversation with your team and really opening up that communication. I think that is a really great start because it opens up so many other things, right? And it can lead to so much more. So I talk about having open communication, like, I think almost every interview, every live that I do, I'm always like, open communication, open communication. So I'd probably say building that trust in that relationship with your teenager to really have that open communication.
Okay.
And with that, trusting the process. Because at first, similar to experience that you had, your teen might be like, nah, I'm not interested. Like, or, family night? What is this? Like, so, and maybe it's starting with that, right? Maybe it's not, because it might be a little bit intimidating for parents or teens to really understand or to have that conversation, right? So maybe starting with something along the lines of, well, let's create a special intentional time where we have one-on-one and doing something together, right? Maybe that's a little bit easier to imagine, like, oh, I'm interested in doing something with you. And maybe at first they'd be like, what? But ask them, what might you want to do, right? Or if you know their interest, find something, oh, they love pottery. Okay, well, there's this new pottery place. I thought we could check it out. What do you think? And so, again, finding something though that interests your teen. And I mean, if it is something that you enjoy too, even better. But definitely make sure it's something that your teen enjoys and do that. And if you're still sort of like, I don't know what to do, I also love and I know you said one, and so now I'm like rambling, but there's just so many ideas. But I love the love languages. I
Yeah.
think the love languages can be really powerful, especially in this conversation of open communication, right? And getting to know what your teen's love language is. So even as you're suggesting ideas on things that you can do together, or even just to strengthen that relationship, I think the love languages can really be helpful too. And there's an online, quiz. You can have your teen do it, and if they're no, you can actually do the quiz as a parent to find out what your teen's love language is. So that's kind of cool if they're not interested. So it can kind of give you an idea. So yeah, I'll leave it there because I could probably, go on for hours, but those are probably the initial things where I would get started there and really unpacking and understanding. Yeah.
Those are great tips because yeah, the five live language, there's a series of books, right? It was the five love
Great.
language. First it was couples and then children, and I'm sure there's a teen version, but yeah,
Yep.
it's which is great. I love those books. They were really helpful. And the other thing I just want to say is when you say conversation, you don't mean a TED talk from the parent about something, right? It's a back and forth where you're asking questions.
Yeah, and sometimes the biggest one is asking that open question, right? And maybe, staying curious and continuing to ask questions, or sometimes that can feel like a bit of an interrogation. So sometimes it's not even asking a follow-up question, it's repeating what your teen has already said and confirming that you understand or that you're listening. And sometimes that can open up a whole world, and they'll just, oh, someone's listening to me. And they just go on and on and on and on. That's often what happens in coaching sessions, right? Where I ask a question, they answer, and reflecting back what I've heard them say. And it can be so powerful in having them to continue to open up and to discuss and share more. You'd be so surprised, I think, how much they really open up just from knowing they've been heard.
I've had that experience. It's amazing. So, okay, how do people connect with you? What's the best way? Do you have like a freebie or anything that you want to talk about, or some way that they can make that point of contact and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of different resources and things like that, but you can definitely connect with me here on Facebook. Send me a DM. I also have my Facebook group, so I go live there and I share tips on how to support parents, or supporting parents to support their teenagers, and it's behind the scenes of teens minds, so you can join me there. I also have some free guides in there that I offer. I have really how to create. I think this one might be, really great for our conversation today, in how to create a supportive environment for your teen. So that's a free guide that I have. So if anyone is interested in that, just send me a message and I will send it over.
Yeah, and you're a member of this group, so
Right.
if they can't figure out where to find you on Facebook, they can literally look you up and message you and say, "Hey, I saw this and I want to know more," and then you can guide them. We'll put we can put links if you, I don't know if you can do it and I can do it, we both could do it. Put the links to all those things so that people have them.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Amanda, so much for doing this on my maiden Facebook Live from Zoom voyage. You've been very patient and very helpful. You've been a great teen coach to me. And I hope this is helpful to other people. I know it's helpful to me, so I hope it's helpful to other moms. And please get in touch with Amanda because you need to connect with your teen.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Rita. I appreciate you. And for anyone that's watching or listening on the replay, please feel free to reach out with me. Even if you don't feel like I'm the best fit as a coach for your teenager, know that I have a network of, we're nearing almost 200 coaches right now who support teens. So if I'm not the fit, at least I can be a resource for you to connect you to someone else that might be a better fit. So please do not feel shy to reach out and DM me anytime. I'm more than happy to answer any questions and making sure that your team gets the support that they need. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much, Rita. This was so much fun.
Okay, we're going to stop the live now.
Bye, everybody.